Okay. Thank you everyone for joining us today for our last webinar of the 2024-2025 Water Ambassador webinar series. As a reminder, the Water Ambassador Program is a partnership program between Martin County, University of Florida IFAS Extension, and the Florida Sea Grant Program. And today, you are getting myself and Vincent as your presenters. We're going to be tag teaming, talking about the eyes on seagrass in the Indian River Lagoon program for our final webinar. So as always, this webinar is going to be recorded and it will be posted on the Martin County IFAS Extension YouTube page with all of our others. We were just looking at all of the recordings from 2020 through 2025 and was kind of astounded that these recordings have been watched almost 7,000 times. So I'm glad that you all are still getting value out of these topics, and we hope that you continue to do so. We also are actively planning our 2026 Lunch and Learn webinar series. So if there are any topics of interest that you want us to approach next year, put the ideas in the chat, as well as any other questions that you may have. Vincent and I are going to give the presentation, and then we will wait until the end to address any of those questions. But feel free to type those questions in the chat at any time. And with that, we're not doing bios today because hopefully you all know us, but I'm Lisa Krimsky. I am a Regional Water Resource Extension Agent for Southeast District, which is all the way from Brevard County down through the Florida Keys and inland into Lake Okeechobee with IFAS Extension. And Vincent is the Sea Grant Extension Agent in Martin and St. Lucie counties. And we have been your co-hosts of the Water Ambassador Program for a number of years. So we're happy to be able to actually present to you all today. So with that, Vincent, I am going to turn it over to you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Lisa, and great to see everybody again. Thanks for joining us on our last webinar of our year, so to speak. Let me see if I got this set up. How's that? Can you guys see that?
Yep.
All right,
good.
perfect. Let me just get myself set up here. Great. So again, thanks for coming. We're going to talk about the Eyes on Seagrass program that Florida Sea Grant has started a few years ago, and specifically how this program has been operating in the Indian River Lagoon, and hopefully how you can join us and help us continue to operate this program in the lagoon. And we'll get into the reasons why. But first, I'm going to set go over the setting here. It's a little bit about the Indian River Lagoon. Many of you might already know some of the key things about the Indian River Lagoon. Then I'll talk a little bit about basic Seagrass 101 and the status of seagrass in the Indian River Lagoon and how that's led us to offer the Eyes on Seagrass program in our area. So next slide, just going over the Indian River Lagoon. Again, this is very unique estuary. It's really three distinct and connected estuaries. The Mosquito Lagoon, Banana River Lagoon, which are further north in Volusia and Brevard counties, and then the sort of Indian River Lagoon proper, which starts from Brevard all the way down into the northern part of Palm Beach County, ending at the Jupiter Inlet. So, and also signified by three tributaries that empty into the lagoon proper, the Sebastian, St. Lucie, and Loxahatchee rivers. It's characterized by being very long, from Ponce Inlet to Jupiter Inlet, and occupies about 40% of Florida's east coast. And those freshwater that enters from the tributaries also can be direct inputs from the shorelines or the land facing the lagoon, and is also That distinct narrow water body is broken up by 5 inlets. I mentioned the first two at either end, but also the Sebastian, Fort Pierce, and St. Lucie inlets interrupt that long length of the lagoon and provide salt water. I was about to say fresh ocean water, but salt water into the lagoon. And that salt water mixes with the fresh water that might be introduced from land as runoff or through those tributaries to create an estuary, basically a water body where salt and fresh water mix. The Indian River Lagoon is also characterized by being very shallow. It averages about 4 feet in depth throughout the entire length of the lagoon, runs along the East Coast. Most of that circulation is driven by the wind, although those inlets also provide some circulation through tidal currents in and out of those inlets as well. It's a fairly large watershed, and if you look at those darker orange areas on that map, that actually signifies the boundaries of the watershed, or when a drop of rain or a drop of water falls within that area, that eventually gets into the lagoon, may go out of those inlets at some point in time. But that watershed represents about 7 counties that drain into the Indian River Lagoon watershed. So over 2,000 square miles. And much of that is artificially expanded from what would be the natural historical watershed because of the way that we've managed waterways, canals, those kinds of things. And you could see the population is quite dense, 1.6 million residents, 38 incorporated cities. So quite important for us, and I'll get into that in a little bit, not just ecologically, but economically as well. And having that sort of long, narrow, shallow lagoon, another thing that's characterized by the lagoon, Indian River Lagoon, and each of those distinct water bodies that make up the lagoon is the long residence time of water within the Indian River Lagoon. Basically, what that means is when a drop of water gets into the water body, how long does it circulate throughout or stay in those particular systems? So fairly long, especially if you look at the Banana River Lagoon up in the northern part of Brevard County, it's quite constricted there. There's very little exchange going in and out of that area, and a drop of water can stay there for nearly half a year. And what that means, essentially, is what enters the lagoon stays in the lagoon. And that can mean a lot of things because of those long residence times and restrictions in flow. What we do around those water bodies and in our watershed can stay in there for quite some time. And some of those things are bad, nutrients, excess pollutants, those kinds of things. And those can cause declines and have caused declines in water quality as well. But another aspect of the long residence time is it allows for proliferation of a lot of unique organisms and biodiversity throughout the lagoon. And the lagoon, because the Indian River Lagoon traverses this transition from the temperate to the subtropical zone, it allows for species from up north, species from up down south, and it creates a really incredible area for biodiversity. And it's often characterized as the most biodiverse estuary in North America. And mainly because it traverses those two climatic zones, and characterized by key habitats for species, oyster reefs, mangroves, all salt marshes, and some actually, although have become kind of important both recreationally and ecologically, man-made features like spoil islands. And then, of course, seagrass, which is really the focus of our presentation today. But that diversity and the population that lives around the lagoon sums up a very important economic engine for the state of Florida. This is a study that was done in 2016, where they estimate the annual economic input or output of the Indian River Lagoon is over $7.5 billion. And you can look at the different components of different industries, natural resources, and recreation, visitation, tourism, for example, how much of what goes into that calculation of the economic impact of the Indian River Lagoon. And this is 2016, so you can imagine, especially with defense and the aerospace industry, this at this point in time can be an underestimate. So it's highly economically valuable to us as well as ecological. And as I mentioned, seagrass habitats are an important component of the ecology of the Indian River Lagoon, a foundational habitat for the lagoon. And as many of you may know already, that we've had severe losses of seagrass habitats over recent years, and we're hoping to bring those back. But seagrass is a vascular plant. It's a flowering plant, much like our plants on land. So they produce little flowers. They're not really true actual grasses, even though we call them seagrass, because they do flower, they do release seeds into the environment eventually. But they, just like any other plant, they need sunlight, they need nutrients, they need soil/sediment when you're underwater, and they play a important role in, not only do they need clear water, but they play an important role in keeping that water clear as well. And the Indian River Lagoon is a great environment for our different seagrass species because of its shallow nature. And seagrasses are found throughout the world in our shallow water systems. This gives you an idea of where they're found. The darker green means more species of seagrass. So you can see a lot of our seagrass diversity centered around the equator in our tropical and subtropical latitudes. And just like around the world, we also have, this shows that where seagrass is found throughout the state of Florida. I mentioned the Indian River Lagoon, but we have very lush, diverse seagrass areas in other parts of the state as well, especially Florida Bay, where it's probably the largest expanse of seagrass habitats in Florida. And also, as you get a little bit further north in more temperate areas in the Big Bend and Nature Coast regions of Florida, in the Gulf of Mexico, or Gulf of America, sorry. And if you've ever gone scalloping on the Nature Coast, you've probably seen those seagrass areas, and just incredible areas for seagrass habitat. And we have a pretty good diversity of seagrass species within Florida. And all of the species you see here, from paddle stargrass all the way up to turtlegrass, are actually all found in the Indian River Lagoon. So that's another thing that makes the lagoon unique, is that all of those grasses can be found somewhere in the Indian River Lagoon. But they range in size, and from very small ones, very low to the bottom grasses, to longer leaf, wider leaf species. And that transition from smaller species to larger reflects also the habitats that they can exploit. Usually when you see these lush, long leaf species like manatee grass and turtle grass, those are typically thought of as more stable environments that can support those kinds of communities, while the smaller ones like paddlegrass, stargrass, and in the Indian River Lagoon, another one called Johnson's seagrass really can exploit these disturbed and newer habitats where they can start to proliferate. All of these species do play a role in helping stabilize those sediments and contributing to water quality as well. And these are the species that you can find in the not only in Florida but in the Indian River Lagoon. All of these can be found in the lagoon, as I mentioned earlier. Again, you've got your small species up top from stargrass. Stargrass is actually within the Indian River Lagoon is more commonly found in the northern parts of the lagoon, and there are areas that Lisa and one of our other Sea Grant colleagues have been monitoring in Brevard County, and they found these really nice expanses of stargrass. I don't see that species as much down my way in Martin and St. Lucie counties, just occasionally, but I do see a lot of paddlegrass and Johnson seagrass, which the species there for Johnson's is Halophila johnsoni. Recent genetic studies have confirmed that actually Johnson seagrass is a non-native species called the Halophila ovalis. It matches that, but for the longest time was found and is still endemic as Johnson seagrass to the Indian River Lagoon. So it is unique. It hasn't caused any problems as far as we know, but there is another species of new seagrass that's made its way into the lagoon. So far, it seems to be confined to one area, I think a marina in the Miami area. Its common name is broadleaf seagrass, Halophila stipulacea, if I get that pronunciation right. And this species is causing some concern. It's only popped up in the last maybe couple years or so, and again limited to one location in Florida, but it has spread quite prolifically throughout the Caribbean, and there is some concern that it may displace our native seagrass species. So that's one thing that we and that's another reason why the Eyes on Seagrass program can be helpful, is to help find and hopefully, if it is spreading, track where that's going. It's thought to be um, less of a food source for other animals in Florida because it's characterized by having these little spines on its leaves, and so less palatable. And then, of course, on the bottom you see your larger seagrass species that are more representative of a climax community or a well-developed seagrass habitat. But all of these seagrasses, native and native in their areas, provide ecosystem services. What ecosystem services really means are the benefits that we gain by virtue of those natural habitats being in an ecosystem. So it's benefits to us, and they seagrass. Some of those ecosystem services are listed here. They provide habitat for other species to live. More than 70% of all of our commercial and recreational species of fish rely on seagrass meadows at some point in their lives. And so seagrass meadows are really can function as nursery habitats as well. So a lot of our juvenile species of fish that we eventually, and crabs that we eventually eat, catch and eat can be found or spend some parts of their lives in seagrass habitats. 1 acre of seagrass can sustain upwards of 40,000 fish and 50 million invertebrates. So not only incredible diversity, but incredible density of organisms can be found in seagrass. They provide a service in terms of carbon sequestration, and are actually kind of champions in their own right when it comes to carbon sequestration. It, a square kilometer of seagrass can hold over 300 metric tons of carbon, and compared with your average terrestrial forest, which holds only 121 metric tons of carbon per square kilometer. And then they play a role I mentioned earlier. They help clarify the water by stabilizing sediments. They can also take up any excess nutrients in the water, providing estimated about 35 per acre, estimated about providing about $3,500 in value for nitrogen removal. And as far as that shoreline stabilization, over $30,000 per year in services provided by 1 acre of successful seagrass habitat. And then, of course, the seagrass itself is not only harboring animals and species that we like to eventually catch and eat, but the seagrass itself is a food source. And of course, probably the animal, the charismatic animal that we know that it's an important food source for are manatees. And another thing that's interesting about seagrass as a food source, worldwide, seagrass meadows indirectly or directly support a third of the world's fisheries, which in developing countries, that's about 50% of animal protein that can be provided to over 400 million people. So incredibly important for not only the health of the ecosystem, but the services or benefits that seagrass habitats provide to us. But unfortunately, we've been losing seagrass throughout the world. The main take-home message with this graphic is the size of the pies represent the number of studies. So as the number of studies in those areas increase, you see that pie getting bigger. And what this is basically saying is, as we study this more in different areas throughout the world, the red slices represent more seagrass loss or decrease over time. So you can see a fair amount of red in there. So documenting that we are losing seagrass, not only in the US, but also in other parts of the world. And when we look at this in Florida, we've had some distinct losses of seagrasses over the last several years in the Indian River Lagoon. And I'll get into the reasons in the next few slides. But this is just showing a graphic on the showing how, especially from 2000, move my cursor over here, from 2007 to 2000, the mid or 2010s, even to most just a couple of years ago, we've had prolific losses of seagrass. Over 50% of seagrasses have been lost in the IRL since 2009. And the reason for those seagrass losses are multifold. You know, you've got and these pictures just are a representation of some of those factors that have led to seagrass loss. It's usually not any one reason, but all of these together have combined, either whether it's direct loss of habitat through seagrass scarring from boat motors. And the one thing about these seagrass scars is once you get these scars through here, the erosion that can happen at the edge of these scars is hastened just because water can then has more of a conduit to flow through that at more speed. And so you start to, these, if you don't do anything about these, you start to lose more seagrass at the edges, and then they get even worse. Water quality issues related to what we do on our watershed, what the stormwater runoff and the excess nutrients that can flow into the lagoon, and our other estuaries throughout Florida, that can not only increase uh, either in this case could be increased fresh water to decrease salinities that are less optimal for seagrass, but a lot of the excess nutrients represented by the basically us in these two photos here, are increased population is increasing the amount of nutrients that are making their way into our estuaries, leading to things like increased muck that can smother seagrass habitats. And of course, we do have natural herbivory, but many of these, all 5 of 6 of these, are all sort of human-induced or man-made impacts to the lagoon that cause loss of seagrass. And coupled with some pretty severe and prolonged algal blooms that started around 2010, 2011. And these turn the waters either pea green or brownish. And those algae blooms can get dense enough to where they're shading the seagrass that's on the bottom. Even though it could be shallow water, not enough sunlight is getting to those seagrass beds. And that very likely the causes of these blooms are due to excess nutrients found in the lagoon. We have either direct stormwater runoff. We also have a legacy of probably leaching from septic tanks in certain parts of the lagoon, can lead to poor water quality. And also these algal blooms. Another thing that happened in 2010, we had these, if you recall, if you recall in 2010, we had a very severe winter. And what had happened in the wake of that is seagrass was very slow to regrow. So there wasn't any of that natural biomass to take up nutrients. And then algal blooms started not long after that, and have persisted in parts of the lagoon even to this day. But you see this prolific loss of seagrass as evident by some of the mapping that the St. Johns River Water Management District does regularly every several years. And you can see that change from 2009, from peak values around 2007 to 2009 to relatively recently in 2021. But the good news is since then, we have seen some recovery of seagrasses in parts of the lagoon. If you could compare from 2021, some new areas of seagrass growth. And like and just as seagrass loss is difficult to ascribe to just one thing, recovery is likely the result of a multi-pronged kind of all of the above approach to improve water quality. Anything from stormwater treatment areas that take up those excess nutrients before they get into the lagoon waters, septic to sewer conversions that can lead to a better treatment of wastewater in our municipal areas. And even if you have septic, to properly maintain and those systems as well. And then other things, grassroots efforts to restore our shorelines, shown here with the Brevard Zoo planting buffered shorelines that have plants on land that help take up the and slow that stormwater runoff so that allows those plants to take up those excess nutrients. And other things like living shorelines shown here in the lower left-hand corner, where combinations of oyster reefs, shoreline vegetation like marsh grasses and mangroves also help to reduce stormwater impacts that can eventually impact our seagrass beds, and dealing with our not only our human waste but our animal waste as well. And lately, in areas of the lagoon, there has been efforts to reduce the amount of fertilizer use, having fertilizer ordinances during those summer months to limit the amount of excess nutrients that get run off into the lagoon. And that leads us to where are those areas of recovery? And that gets us to our program, Eyes on Seagrass. And I'll let Lisa take it from here.
Thank you, Vincent. Can you switch sides? Okay, so the Eyes on Seagrass program is a program conducted by Florida Sea Grant, which exists in most of the coastal counties in the state. And this one actually started, it's a community science or participatory science program. It actually started over on the west coast of the state in Charlotte County, in response to some negative aspects that they were seeing in Charlotte Harbor, where they were seeing a lot of macroalgal growth, and they wanted to be able to really detect where that growth was happening, and using the community scientists to be able to assess that. Since then, the Eyes on Seagrass program has expanded to other estuaries across the state, including in the Panhandle, and then most recently, we're actually looking to incorporate it in Miami-Dade County, actually to try and use community scientists to try and help with the detection of that invasive species that Vincent talked about. But what's unique about the Eyes on Seagrass program in the Indian River Lagoon is that rather than addressing a negative component of seagrass, we actually developed it in response to that regrowth and recovery that Vincent just discussed. So after having conversations with some of you who are actually on the call right now, we were recognizing that we were seeing regrowth, but a lot of the reports were anecdotal. And there really wasn't a way to assess where that regrowth is happening beyond the more traditional management monitoring programs that exist biannually in the lagoon. So Vincent, next slide. So we created the Eyes on Seagrass Blitz in the Indian River Lagoon. And essentially what this was a month-long effort to utilize everyone who recreates or, lives near or plays on the lagoon to be able to collect data both on the presence and absence of seagrass across the entire Indian River Lagoon. Unlike other monitoring programs, including the Eyes on Seagrass programs across the state, this did not rely on traditional transect monitoring. Really, this was just a snapshot in time of presence or absence. And the beauty of this is that literally anyone can report data. Anyone can report anything. Is there seagrass? Is there not seagrass? It doesn't really matter. We want to know. The only caveat to that is, next slide, please, is if what you need is a cell phone to be able to participate and the ability to take pictures. So we rely on an ArcGIS platform. It's called Survey 123 to be able to report that data. This is just sort of a little snippet of what you will see when you use your phone. Next slide, please. And what we rely on is, in order to verify and validate the data that is submitted by all of our community science volunteers, is imagery, to be able to quality check that data. When you take a picture, you do have to have geolocation services on because the ArcGIS Survey 123 actually uses that to map the location of where the seagrass presence is or is not. So what do we need from you in addition to be able to submit the data in that form? We also need good quality pictures. And a lot of times this is hard because water clarity isn't always working in our favor, or wind conditions might make it really challenging, or even sunlight with glare. But unless you're able to take a good picture, we are unable to validate that data, and ultimately we're unable to use it. So these are examples of good quality pictures of various submerged aquatic vegetation on the bottom, including both seagrass as well as macroalgae. This is important because we are also not just interested in, is it seagrass? We also want to know, are there other species like our Caloprus species that are growing there? And we can use your data to be able to add that added value data. So those are examples of good pictures. Next slide. These are images that were submitted by Eyes on Seagrass volunteers, and while we applaud their willingness to go out there and collect data, unfortunately, we are unable to validate the data that was entered, and this is unusable data for us. So we encourage you, if you're going to go out there, really to try and make sure that the images that you take are actually clear enough for us to confirm or deny what the data entry is. And so these are pictures of poor data points. Next slide. These are okay. If you are really committed, and I can promise you Vincent is probably at least 2 of the 3 of these pictures here. If water clarity is poor, but there is seagrass there, you can take a little blade and take a picture of that blade. And that is evidence of, at that location, we saw this shoal grass there. We really want to be cautious about this. We do not want to be, we are having regrowth and we're excited about that regrowth. So we don't want to be destroying the seagrass. So be very limited in what you take and be very cautious in what you take. Don't be pulling out any of the rhizomes. Take the smallest amounts that you can in order for us to verify that it is actually seagrass, as well as ideally what species of seagrass it is. So that's the good, the bad, and the okay in terms of what we need in order to accept the data from you. Next slide. So we tried this after talking to a number of our natural resource manager friends. We tried this for the first time in November 2024. It was a 2-week long. We extended it for 1 month at the end using a mobile app. This was our piloting to see whether or not it was a valid effort, whether or not people would go out and be willing to collect data on behalf of the Eyes on Seagrass Blitz. So next slide. What we found was that, yes, volunteers were willing to go out, and we got some great data. We had 54 total reports. 30 of them, because of the quality of the imagery, we were actually able to use, and those were submitted by 12 volunteers across the entire Indian River Lagoon region. Unfortunately, that November was extremely windy, and so to no fault of our volunteers, water clarity was very poor. So it was limited in terms of what data we were able to use and the quality of the data that we were able to use. That being said, it was enough of an interest, and the value of the data was good enough that we were willing to try this again with some improvements. So next slide. And this is some of the imagery of that data that was collected in November 2024. So you can see that we got reports all across the lagoon, and this is the clarity of imagery that we're looking for. So you can see that we had even sparse data is really good data, whether or not, if it's highly epiphytic, meaning there's a lot of stuff growing on the seagrass, that's all useful information for us to know. So this is just an example of the locations of where seagrass was reported in November. Next. And what was really exciting, if you, go back real quick, Vincent. So this data is overlaid in the most recent aerial imagery of St. John's River Water Management District. That's that green highlights that you see there. And what was really exciting for us was that we had volunteers in that orange box that were submitting and showing evidence of seagrass regrowth in areas where the aerial imagery had not picked up on that. And again, this was some of that being able to capture that anecdotal evidence that people were seeing and being able to validate it with that imagery. So next slide. Because of the success of this, we decided to try it again, this time when the weather was more appealing and user-friendly, shall we say. So we had a month-long Eyes on Seagrass Blitz in May. Next slide. And instead of using the Seagrass Spotter app, we this time relied on that Survey 123 app for a number of just our sort of end user abilities. But we had great success. So we had 105 total usable reports, 26 reporting teams. We had reports in all six, we're saying 6 counties along the IRL because we had from Volusia down through Palm Beach. And either by entering in that URL, which I'll put in the chat, or by clicking on the QR code, that will actually take you to the ArcGIS map interface and allow you to manipulate and navigate and play with those data points and be able to see the pictures and all of the data that was entered by our volunteers. Next slide. So what you see sort of in a very small snapshot, yeah, you can go ahead, Vincent, move forward one. On the left-hand side, that is the map from just the 2025 data. So this includes, actually, I think that's 24 and 25 data. So this includes both presence and absence. So what you're seeing here is orange data, which I believe was 2024, the yellow data points, which are 2025, where seagrass was present. And then those red points are data points that were submitted in 2025 where seagrass was not present. And again, the absence of seagrass is just as important as knowing where seagrass is regrowing because it tells us a little bit about the conditions. Is it something like the sediment is poor, or is there freshwater discharges, or is water clarity really poor in those areas? So it tells us that something is off about those site requirements to encourage seagrass growth. But this is examples of some of the seagrass imagery that was submitted by our volunteers. So you could see everything from Rupia all the way in Volusia County to the stargrass in Brevard County that Vincent showed. Next slide. And this is a snapshot just of Martin County. So I wanted to highlight, since it's Martin County Water Ambassadors, I wanted to show you just what Martin County data looked like. So you could see we had, some hotspot areas where known seagrass was, location was. We had a northernmost point up in Jensen, southernmost point down in Hobe Sound. That was my daughter. Proud of her. But what I want you to know is that we had seagrass presence, we had seagrass absence, but we also have huge gaps along Martin County's range of the Indian River Lagoon, meaning that we need more eyes on seagrass. We need to be able to fill in some of those gaps to be able to determine what is the status of seagrass in those areas. So next slide. And as I mentioned, the absence of seagrass is just as important as the presence. These are some of our absence images. And so what you can see, that red dot indicates there was no seagrass present, and that top image is a picture of cyanobacteria. This is an issue that we've been having in some areas in Martin County, and it's precluding, it's shading out areas where seagrass otherwise could grow. And so it's becoming problematic. And as we recognize where these areas are, we also, become familiar with areas where seagrass maybe historically was, but is no longer. And those are target areas for improvement. But red dot doesn't necessarily mean bad things. It could mean that there is something else growing there. And that's what that bottom image is. This is an image of caulerpa, which is a macroalgae, and there's some pros and cons to caulerpa. It's not thought to have some of the nutritional value that our seagrasses have, but it does stabilize that sediment. And so there is some thought that maybe by having that caulerpa there, it can almost be sort of a foundational species and allow for the conditions for seagrass to grow in. So again, important to know what's growing where and when. Next slide. And this is a highlight of that cyanobacteria. The species is Dapis that we discussed in those areas of red where some of the seagrass isn't going. And there's ongoing efforts to try and physically remove some of that cyanobacteria along shore regions. And that picture on the right is a modified rake that a contractor for Martin County has come up with to try and do some of that removal. They're pilot testing it now to see whether or not a scalable version can be implemented in the county. Next slide. And although we have blitzes in May, and we're going to stick with the May timeline, and we're going to do another one in May 2026, and that's really the month that we're promoting, we want data whenever. So we're not limiting this to May. If you're out there and you see seagrass or you don't see seagrass and you happen to have good water conditions and your cell phone on you, take a picture. All data is good data. And so we want to encourage you to go out there and take it. These are examples of a group that Vincent led back in August up in St. Lucie County, and they saw some beautiful seagrass growth in the area and were able to enter that into the map. And you can actually see that, the location up there. Yep. Next slide. So how do you participate? You can find more information if you just do bit.ly EOS, Eyes on Seagrass Blitz. That will take you to the Florida Sea Grant website where we have all the information that you need of how do you get the app, how do you enter information, what do you need, sort of the very specific requirements. Or if you are ready and willing to go, you just take your phone, click on the QR code, and that will open up the Survey 123 data entry point right there. You can have it open on your phone at any time, and then this way, no matter where you are along the lagoon, if you see seagrass or don't, you can enter data. And then I look forward to reviewing all of those pictures. So we will put these links in the chat box. We encourage you all to get involved. It's a really fun way to participate, and then you get to see your data uploaded in the maps. And again, super easy. Anyone can do it. We just need good quality imagery. So next slide. We have, as part of the Water Ambassador series, we have really tried to give you up-to-date information on the status of seagrasses in the lagoon, and they've kept you posted. So we've done a number of webinars on this topic. In 2024, we did the Emerald Sanctuary video. It was a documentary video screening with a panel, Q&A expert panel afterwards. In 2022, we had a presentation that talked about the unusual manatee mortality event. And then earlier in that year, we had a presentation that talked about natural solutions for stormwater, talking about freshwater submerged aquatic vegetation. So we encourage you to go back, if this is a topic that's of interest to you, to go to the YouTube website and look at any of those presentations. And next slide. With that, I want to thank you. This is a partnership project across all of the Sea Grant and Natural Resource Extension agents in the Indian River Lagoon. So if you don't want to talk to myself or Vincent, you can feel free to talk to your own local agent, all the way up from Volusia down through Martin County. And I think that's it. So we've got lots of questions in the chat, Vincent. So maybe we can stop sharing And then if you can maybe address the first question while I put the links in the chat.
Perfect. Let me just move this over so I can see it better. Let's see. Oh, here's one from Erica. Do you have a suggestion for an underwater camera with geotagging? If anybody, I don't. I just bought a housing for my phone, and I have yet to test it out. But if anybody, any scuba divers here or paddlers that are out on the lagoon, if you guys have any ideas of what would be a good camera for that. I do recall some underwater cameras that are sort of all, not a housing for a phone, but um, a full underwater camera, but I can't remember if that model had geotagging as well. So I'm sorry, I can't quite answer that question right now. So, but if anybody else has any ideas, I'd appreciate it. We have a comment from Linda at Jupiter Narrows. After every weekend with boating and recreational use, shoalgrass is floating by with the tide. Um, and yeah, there's probably a lot of impacts there. Um, do you, do you, she also writes, do you partner with existing studies? Continental Shelf Associates are mapping seagrass for the ACE right now here north of Jupiter Inlet. I can't recall what ACE stands for. So if you wouldn't mind entering that into the chat. Um, Uh, Lisa, we do work with some of the state agencies, the St. John's River Water Management District. A lot of the data that are collected from this program are being provided to them, particularly if we find any hotspots of seagrass recovery that maybe they might want to pay closer attention to for the future. Any other partners you can think of, Lisa?
Yeah, FWC as well. This program actually got
FWC.
started with
That's right.
interest from FWC. So I want to thank them for giving us the nudge.
Yeah. We have a more specific Survey 123 app question from Chip. Are the photos submitted from the phone as part of the Survey 123 app, or are they submitted separately from a camera, or both?
So as part of the app, so there's two ways to do it. You can either take the picture first, or when you're in the form actually filling out the data, it will require you to select to take a picture. So it's while you're in there submitting data as in your phone, you'll be taking a picture and it will geolocate there. If you download the Survey 123 app rather than using it in a browser, it will allow you to sort of just store that data entry point if you don't have cell service. So that's the one benefit of actually downloading the Survey 123 app rather than just clicking on the QR code. But otherwise, it's part of the data entry process. Is that clear? I'm not sure I made that clear.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think that it is part and parcel of that Survey 123 app. So, going back to Erica's original question about asking for suggestions on an underwater camera, Susan writes she knows someone who uses the GoPro Hero Black 11 successfully. So I'm assuming that means that GoPro model has geotagging. Um, got a nice shout out for your daughter, Lisa. and for the volunteers in Indian River County around the Waso Causeway. Thank you. Oh. And Heather, I have a feeling that you're also partly responsible for some of that, I imagine. So Chip has a question. I think we covered that. Are you coordinating with St. John's River Water Management District, Lori Morris, on areas that would be helpful to fill in? as in not already covered by their biannual transect monitoring?
So Lori and Lauren are both on the call right now, and they do get the data. We are not specifically targeting locations because really, I mean, if we know anecdotally that there is a place of seagrass recovery that isn't captured by the transect monitoring, well, the Wabasso Causeway was an example of that. For, we did try and set up some volunteer recruiting efforts, but really this is a if you're out there, no matter where you are type of thing. So no, we're not specifically targeting sites.
Okay. Linda asks, are you combining the May Blitz with public education for all the summer recreational use / potential harm, i.e. I'm assuming prop scars, dredges, etc.?
We haven't yet. We are still very much in the volunteer recruitment stage of this. Really, our efforts right now are trying to get more people to participate in the program. And then I think once we have a core group, the problem is because of the way that this program runs, we don't know who's submitting data. It is completely anonymous and it's kind of done intentionally, but that does make it challenging for us to keep track of who's volunteering. And so once we get a sort of a core group of volunteers who are submitting data fairly regularly, that we're comfortable with that data, I think that's when we will pivot and add more educational components to this project. But right now we're really focused on getting more people to participate.
All right, and there's a question from Casey. Is there a way to confirm with participants that their photo was good enough to use as a data point? That way we can try again if it wasn't clear enough.
You can see the photo. So, I mean, if it's clear enough for you to see what's on the bottom, then it's clear enough for us. That would be my recommendation.
Cool. Let me see. Okay. Oh, Army Corps of Engineers. Thank you, Linda. The acronym ACE is Army Corps of Engineers, and they're likely dredging the intracoastal waterway. Cool, thank you. Okay, here's a question from Nick via Susan. What do you guys plan to do with all the data collected from the Blitz? Also, I saw this pop up before in the chat. FOS does St. Johns River Water Management District surveys in Martin County. So they do document seagrass meadows in those spots that were previously discussed. Thank you, Nick, for clarifying that. Thank you.
Yeah, so I guess I can add to that. Once the aerial imagery, the most recent aerial imagery from St. John's is available, we will upload our maps to that. We do make the data publicly available. I mean, I can show you real quick the interface. We want people to use this. So by going to that link, this data is available to anyone. And can you see us?
Yep.
Vincent? Okay,
Are you sharing?
Yeah, I think so. Are you not seeing it?
I'm seeing it. I'm
Okay.
seeing it. Yep.
So for example, if you click on any data point, you can see all of the information. You can click on the image and it'll show up. And then you can also, see, you should be able to see all of the tables. So we want people to be able to use this. And if they want the actual raw data more than what's available in the map, they can just contact us, because the whole point of this project is to help those who are doing restoration efforts, who are doing recovery, who's doing all sorts of improvements for the Indian River Lagoon. So this is just sort of supplemental information to help them decide where they should be focusing their efforts. So yeah, I mean, like I said, we do share it with St. John's. We're happy to share it with anyone else who wants, if they need more information beyond what's available in the map.
Cool. We've got a question from, oh, it looks like the question is specifically for Nick, asking where FOS is doing their seagrass surveys. And they are taking place a little further north of the inlet, closer to the areas around and near the power plant. So yay, FOS, great job.
And it is 1 o'clock. I just want to say, if it was another presenter, we would be booting them out right now. So we're happy to stay on and answer any more questions if you have. So we'll hang out for a few more minutes, but we do want to thank you all for participating. We hope that you will participate in Eyes on Seagrass whenever, or in May 2026. And thank you again for joining us for the Water Ambassador Program. And we will be starting up again in January. So look out for those emails.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.